You have the perfect pitch. Your return on investment calculations are flawless. The data is undeniable, and your presentation hits every single metric the client asked for. You slide the proposal across the table, and in return, you get a flat no, or worse, total silence. This happens because professionals frequently fall into the should trap. We build our arguments based on how a counterpart should respond to pure logic. We expect them to act like calculating machines, completely ignoring the reality that humans are emotional survival machines first. When a counterpart pushes back, they are usually defending an unstated fear. If you argue against that resistance using raw facts, you bypass their logical processing entirely and strike their amygdala, the brain's threat detection center. The incoming data registers as a physical attack. Fighting psychological resistance with spreadsheets is biologically doomed to fail. You cannot move a deal forward or unstick a stalled negotiation until you neutralize that threat center and make the counterpart feel secure. This problem requires a specialized psychological tool called tactical empathy, a concept developed in the extreme environment of high-stakes hostage negotiation, where ignoring a counterpart's emotional state has immediate, fatal consequences. Tactical empathy is not about feeling sorry for someone, that is sympathy. Tactical empathy is the calculated act of recognizing your counterpart's exact perspective and vocalizing it back to them, without necessarily agreeing with it. The mechanism to deliver this empathy is a linguistic formula known as labeling. A label relies on specific, non-accusatory starter phrases like, it seems like, it sounds like, or it looks like, followed immediately by an intentional, unbroken period of silence. Using this exact phrasing physically rewires your counterpart's brain state in real time. By accurately naming their emotion without judging it, you calm their amygdala and shift them from a posture of defensive fear to one of collaborative logic. Let's look at how this works in a modern business setting. Imagine a sales rep demonstrating a software as a service or SaaS product. Specifically, they are showing off a highly advanced CRM, a complex system used to track and manage customer data. Midway through the flashy dashboard demo, the prospect suddenly goes quiet and starts fidgeting. The surface text is silence. The subtext is entirely different. The prospect isn't unimpressed by the software's capabilities. They are secretly intimidated by the massive learning curve required to use it. Instead of pushing more features, the rep uses a label. It seems like this new workflow might require painful retraining. The prospect exhales. The tension drops. Because their hidden fear was validated, they willingly outlined their exact internal onboarding process, effectively handing over the roadmap to close the deal. Now consider a sudden pricing crisis. You are inches from signing a contract when the buyer unexpectedly demands a 20% discount and threatens to walk away from the table entirely. An aggressive price demand is rarely about the company's actual budget limits. Almost always, it is driven by the buyer's personal risk of presenting a large, unproven expense to a strict chief financial officer. It sounds like you're under intense pressure to justify this spend to your CFO. Calling out the underlying personal risk transforms the buyer from an adversary demanding arbitrary cuts into a collaborator seeking your help to build an internal business case. This dynamic extends well past sales. In project management, a client might frantically email their agency with dozens of nitpicky, contradictory design changes 48 hours before a major product launch. The client is not suddenly obsessed with font sizes. Their erratic behavior is driven by a hidden, paralyzing fear of public failure, or the dread of letting down their own CEO on launch day. It feels like you're carrying the entire weight of this launch on your shoulders. Labeling that specific fear releases the pressure valve. It satisfies the client's emotional need to be understood and stops the endless, panicked cycle of revisions. We even see this exact psychology working in non-human digital interfaces, specifically in user experience and user interface, or UX and UI design. Picture a fintech app where a user attempts a large money transfer, but the system times out. The user is instantly thrown into pure panic. Automated UI microcopy can act as a label here. Instead of a cold error code, text that reads, "It looks like your bank's connection dropped, but your funds are completely secure," immediately validates their anxiety without arguing or placing blame. Whether you are navigating a live human conversation or writing automated error messages, directly naming the negative emotion creates immediate, lasting trust. Labeling also serves as a diagnostic intervention for dead communication. Suppose a massive, unforeseen industry regulatory shift freezes budgets across the board, causing 5 of your hottest leads to instantly go dark. The subtext of their silence is pure survival mode. They are simply scrambling to protect their own jobs right now. In that state, any standard follow-up pitch from a vendor reads as an annoying tone-deaf distraction. You send a precise email intervention. It feels like your department is in pure survival mode right now. You fearlessly call out the elephant in the room, and you ask for absolutely nothing in return. Or take the everyday ghosting scenario. A prospect hasn't replied to 3 consecutive follow-up emails. Often they are simply embarrassed that they cannot secure the internal engineering approval they promised you. You send a single label. It seems like getting your engineering team to sign off is proving much harder than expected. This lets the prospect off the hook, acknowledging their roadblock without accusing them of flaking. Giving a counterpart permission to admit their internal struggle without judgment is the fastest, most effective way to unstick a stalled conversation. Look closely at the core mechanism across all of these interventions. In every single successful outcome, you never pitched your product, you never argued the facts, and you never defended your position. You applied the psychological concept of deactivating the negative. Simply observing a negative emotion and naming it out loud biologically shuts it down. This achieves the ultimate strategic goal of tactical empathy, granting your counterpart the illusion of control. Letting the counterpart do the talking makes them feel entirely in charge of the interaction, but because you are the one choosing exactly which fear or subtext to label, you are the one secretly steering the trajectory of the conversation. Negotiation is not a battle of logic. It is a deep information-gathering process. By observing the subtext, labeling it out loud, and staying silent, you force the truth to spiral out and close the deal for you.